Hey guys, it's Aaliyah with Open Doors, Open Hearts blog, and today I wanted to share a little bit of homemaking motivation in light of a failed sourdough loaf that I made this week. This week I made a loaf of bread that didn't turn out quite right. It was not as good as I have done in the past. So, when that happened, I thought that I would take the opportunity to try to encourage you on your homemaking journey. I've been a stay-at-home mom and full-time homemaker for 4 years. This isn't a career choice that I saw modeled growing up. My mom and dad both worked out of the home. My aunts and uncles both worked out of the home. Both of my grandparents worked out of the home. So the idea of being a homemaker just really never crossed my mind. My plan was to work really hard and become the nurse manager at the hospital that I worked at. And as far as I could tell, there wasn't really any other path. Like that was the only thing I saw for my future until I gave birth to my first daughter. After she was born, I suddenly realized that I had a choice. I realized that I was very happy at home. I loved doing all of the things. Don't get me wrong, I felt very fulfilled as a nurse, and I know that as a nurse, I had a purpose. But it's kind of like that quote, don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, because the world needs people who are fully alive. But this slow and simple lifestyle was so different from everything that I had seen modeled that I had to learn how to do it. So today, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the different things that I did to help myself as I was learning how to become a homemaker. And honestly, I still do all of these things. So the first thing I had to learn was how to be good at being bad at something. I am not good at being bad at things. I don't like it. And it just really bothers me. I'm a type A personality, and so I really want to know how to do the thing, and then I will do the thing. Like 2 plus 2 equals 4, always. Um, but with being a homemaker, there are so many things and so many times when 2 plus 2 simply does not equal 4. There are so many different skills that I had to learn and still have to learn that if I'm not okay with being bad at something, then I'm just not going to be able to ever get good at it. I have to first accept being bad in order to become good at it. And sourdough is a perfect example of that for me. When I started sourdough 5 years ago, I was absolutely terrible at it. The bread was edible, but it was not great. It was very dense. All the things that could go wrong with sourdough were going wrong with my sourdough. But I didn't quit. I kept being bad until one day I wasn't bad anymore.
Lay down, Joey. Lay down.
And that leads me to my next tip. And this is something I've talked about in a previous video about our 2023 goals. I wanted to learn how to master something, and then when I had mastered that, I would move on to the next thing. And I specifically did this with sourdough, but as I look at our life, really, we kind of do that with our life. First, we had a small garden. Then we made the garden a little bigger and we added a few more different variety of plants. And then after we were feeling comfortable and confident with the garden, we started adding orchard plants like blueberries and apples, honeyberries, strawberries. And then once we felt comfortable with that, then we added laying hens. And then after we did laying hens, I learned how to can all of the food from the garden. And after canning all of the food from our garden, we learned how to raise meat birds and process meat birds so that we have our own chicken meat. And now we have a cow, and I've learned to milk her. And hopefully this summer we'll get some sheep. So it's this ongoing thing where you just start slow. You pick one thing until you're good at it, you feel confident, and it almost kind of like fits into the cracks of your day. And then you add to it and you just keep building. It's like a cycle of building on to new skills. The next thing is doing hard things. So I would say I'm sometimes good at this and sometimes bad at this. I've learned that I cannot allow my mood to dictate what I actually end up doing for the day. As an example, last summer there was a period where it was 90 plus degrees outside, and we do not have air conditioning inside. And so I knew that going out to the garden was going to be super uncomfortable because I was going to go out to the garden, get hot and sweaty and very yucky. And when I came inside, I was not going to feel any relief. At the old house, I never had that because I knew I would go outside, do all of the hard, hot, sweaty things, and I'd come back in the house and it would be fine because I had air conditioning. So I've already said it to myself for our garden this year. I am not going to let this discomfort of being hot and sweaty at the very start of the day get in the way of doing the hard thing that needs done. Because then what ends up happening is I don't go to the garden for a week and the weeds start going crazy. And cucumbers are overgrown, zucchini overgrown, and then I have to play catch up the next week because I didn't take the time to do the hard thing. But if you keep doing the hard thing, eventually the hard thing becomes not hard anymore. The next thing that I do is ask for help. This is not something that comes natural for me. As a type A personality, I like to try to figure things out on my own. But the truth is there are things that I can figure out much faster if I just ask for help. Sometimes it is finding another mom who's going through the same thing I'm going through and just hashing it out together, sharing notes on what I did and what she did and how we can make this thing better. Sometimes I look to other women at our church or some of my family members. Sometimes I am looking to the internet. Women on YouTube who I look at and they encourage me immensely, and I will go to them and see if they have any wisdom on whatever situation it is that I'm needing help with. The last idea that I have is to help another person. Now, as a homemaker, this is something that kind of comes natural to me because I'm constantly helping my girls. I will learn a recipe and then I try to teach it to them, or I learn a new technique for something in the kitchen and I teach it to them. The garden. They've been out while I've been milking the cow and I've told them different things about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Helping another person is kind of like a twofold thing. It's like the see one, do one, teach one. So you learn how to do it yourself, you start actually doing the hard thing, and then you show somebody else how to do it. And in doing that, it kind of gives you this confidence that I am good enough at this particular thing that I can teach somebody else how to do it. But the coolest thing to me about teaching somebody else or helping somebody else along on their journey is that there is a ripple effect that goes beyond me. I love the idea that what I'm doing will have an impact that reaches far beyond me. I was actually talking to the girls about that recently with them. They're young right now, but someday they're going to grow up and they're going to have homes and they're going to have children and they're going to be able to teach their children things that I taught them. It just is so cool to me, this ripple effect. I've always been so in awe of the ripple effect that our lives have on the lives of those around us. So those are the things that I have learned to do and still do on the regular as I'm growing and becoming a homemaker. I don't think that there's ever this like, you have arrived. I think that there's always something to learn. These are just steps and processes that I have in the back of my mind for how I try to continue to help myself grow as a homemaker. This loaf of sourdough cinnamon swirl bread, it didn't look good. That was the big fail about it, is that I started tearing the dough. And so as I tore the dough, the cinnamon started to become present. So instead of the outer layer being the sourdough loaf, the outer layer was the cinnamon. As I was failing at this loaf, I thought this would be one of those things that at the beginning of my journey would make me want to throw in the towel and just quit and not try this recipe anymore. I hope that this video encouraged you. I hope that if you were feeling down, that this video lifted you up and it gave you some motivation to get up and try again. If you're new to my channel, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button down below, and I'll see you next time.